By mixing third-person action and card collecting, Hand of Fate managed to be one of the few games that genuinely surprised me last year. It seemed so simple, yet I spent an absurd amount of time getting to know the nameless card dealer and his dry sense of humor. I came out of the review hoping there'd be more games just like it. Little did I know that developer Clever Plays was prepping Leap of Fate, a similarly titled game that takes everything I liked about Hand of Fate and mashes it into a devilishly addictive dual-stick shooter. Not to be confused with the Steve Martin movie Leap of Faith. Leap of Fate is a cyberpunk action game that mixes elements from board games and roguelikes. You choose between 4 characters, each with a rich backstory and superpowers. They've been pushed into the shadows, forced to fight hordes of futuristic enemies in the crucible of fates. This sends us on a mission to battle through dozens of bite-sized levels and defeat a series of deadly boss creatures. The 4 characters are led through the crucible by a well-dressed man with an eyeball for a head, a spitting image of the resident's lead violinist. The chapters are randomly generated through the scattering of playing cards, each setting up a different battle our hero needs to win in order to advance. Eventually, we run into one of the game's many bosses, which is the only thing standing between you and the next hand. Leap of Fate starts out like a straightforward dual-stick shooter, but it won't take long to see what sets this game apart from all of the Geometry Wars clones filling up Steam. Beyond simply attacking in all directions, our hero can pull off something the game calls shadow walking. This allows the player to literally warp all over the stage, usually to the confusion of the enemies. This is just the first glimpse we get at what makes these characters so difficult to apprehend. Like a lot of role-playing games, Leap of Fate has us leveling up our fighter in an effort to give them new skills and perks. We start out with the basic attacks, but it won't take long to unlock and buy all kinds of upgrades. Each character has their own tech trees, which includes everything from adding more health to engineering new attacks. Depending on how you allocate your points, you'll be able to slow down time with each shadow walk, levitate over the ground, and even create spinning orbs that shoot homing missiles. But don't forget, this is a roguelike. You don't have unlimited lives and continues. Once you die, you start over from the beginning. This means it's back to leveling up, beating bosses, buying items, and making your way through the randomly generated crucible of fate. The good news is that completing challenges will unlock perks that will maintain no matter how many times you die. Completing these challenges is also the way to unlock extra characters and their stories, so you'll spend a lot of time trying to kill enemies in different ways to meet your goals. It definitely helps that the 4 characters are unique in both looks and combat. Aeon, for example, shoots long-range energy beams, while Mukai is limited to powerful short-range swipes. These differences extend to the secondary attacks, as well as the way each character shadow walks. Sometimes the differences are even more subtle than that, as is the case with Razumov, who buys items through sacrificing his health. There's some interesting balancing choices made in Leap of Fate. Although none of these pieces are especially original, mashing them together has created a fresh and exciting take on the dual-stick shooter genre. It's fun speccing the characters in different ways to see all of the variations, and the moment the game started to feel repetitive, I just moved on to the next hero. Best of all, there are a lot of levels and extras to unlock, so you definitely won't see everything in the first go. Unfortunately, the game's simplistic overhead visuals don't convey just how exciting the action is. The environments change, and we're introduced to a whole bunch of new enemies, but it's never as flashy as other dual-stick shooters. Perhaps that's because it doesn't need to be. The excitement doesn't come from groundbreaking graphics and particle effects, but rather the very real danger that your run could end at any second. That said, I do wish the boss fights were a little more epic. On a similar note, I also hoped for a little more from Leap of Fate's card game structure. I love the way it creates paths by using flipped over cards, but it's a shame there isn't more variety in the options. While there are several odd cards mixed into the deck, it often feels like you're only uncovering the typical combat stages. Hand of Fate took this idea a little further, and it benefited because of it. Apart from these minor issues, I was genuinely surprised by how much fun I had with Leap of Fate. With so many dual-stick shooters on the market, games need to go the extra length to add something new and fresh to the festivities. This one does that, and more. Between the character-specific superpowers and the randomness of levels, I found myself losing hours of the day hooked on completing every task and unlocking all of the extras. This is an action-packed thrill ride that takes the genre in an exciting new direction. Hey, thanks for watching our review. After a few weeks full of disappointments, it feels good to actually have something to recommend. Leap of Fate is great, and hopefully the generic name won't scare you off. Looking forward, I have a bunch of reviews lined up for the next week, including for Showdown, Dre, and a bunch of other games I should have gotten to this week. Oh, and look for a survey/contest thing to go up on Friday. We're giving away several games, and all you need to do is answer questions about the channel. Anyway, you should click the subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.